Hello everyone, this is Orion, Kilo Echo 7, Victor Lima Charlie for the Mesa Amateur Radio Club, and this is a project video. We're doing a project video of adding foam inserts into your Apache cases for your radio equipment. As most of our members know, we go out into the field, we go camping out in the woods, and we travel a lot with our equipment. In order to protect your equipment, you got to have a good hard case, almost like a Pelican case. Pelican is a name brand case that is a hard shell case that does a really good job of protecting the inside items from basically dust, dirt, water, as well as, you know, abrasions and being dropped, and, you know, basically it absorbs a lot of the impact if you were to drop it by accident. And rather than buy a, you know, $200 or $300 case, there are cases over at Harbor Freight that are, you know, a quarter to an eighth of the price. They're called Apache cases. They're a really good case. I've never really had any issues with them. They're a little bit hard to open sometimes, but other than that, they're a really good solid case. And you can pick them up at Harbor Freight for, you know, $40, $50 rather than paying $200 to $300. It just makes no sense in paying a lot more money for something that, you know, is fairly inexpensive nowadays. Anyways, the foam that comes in them is that pluck and pick foam. It's really loose foam. It's not really all that dense and everything. And quite honestly, it just deteriorates over time. As you move equipment in and out, in and out, in and out, it loosens the fibers up inside of that foam. And then you're just going to have to basically pull all the foam out, buy brand new foam, put it in there, and re-pluck it all out and put your radios in it. So Frank came up with this idea of actually a good hard thick foam that is used for electronics. So if you buy a new laptop or a desktop or a video card or something of that nature, they usually come in this electrostatic, non-electrostatic foam, and the card sits inside of it, and they can package the foam around it. And a lot of times that foam is it's really good foam. It protects the item from damage, from being bumped and broken and things of that nature. But it gets difficult to actually find this foam. Sometimes you end up having to order big sheets of it, like, you know, 20 feet, you know, wide sheets, and then you're going to have to cut it down in order to get it into these smaller projects. Now, Frank has a CNC, and for most of you who don't understand what a CNC is, it's basically a computer-controlled router is what it is. And it comes in there with a very specific blade and does specific cuts that you pre-program into it. And you have to sit down and you have to draw this three-dimensional picture in order for the CNC to kind of understand exactly what it needs to cut. You're going to basically draw it out on this two-dimensional thing, and then you're going to make a three-dimensional change, and you're going to tell the machine exactly where it needs to cut and everything. And then you transfer it to the actual computer at the CNC, and then the rest of it does its own job. And you'll see that here in just a little bit. It's kind of a very high-tech way of doing this. Now, we decided to do this. Frank did his, and it turned out wonderful. And I've been wanting to do this with my equipment, primarily because I don't use my equipment so much at home, but I do use it when I travel a lot. Anytime I go out to the outdoors, the great outdoors, I'm always bringing my equipment. So I would rather have it protected from dirt, rain, bumps, and if I accidentally, say, open up the door of my car and it goes tumbling out, I don't want it to get damaged. So we decided to go right ahead and make these foam cuts, and that's what you're going to see here. And I'm going to have a little bit of narration throughout the whole entire piece and throughout the whole entire video, as well as a final image of each one of the products. Now, if you're interested in something of this nature, you'll have to get a hold of Frank and see if he's going to be able to do something of this nature for you. It's going to require a little bit of time. It's going to require you to bring your equipment over and get it measured up properly and get it designed properly. And then, of course, we have to find the foam itself. And we've been kind of playing around with it. We made a couple errors during my project, and I'm not going to share too many of those errors other than the one. When you're making this cut, you've got 3 dimensions that you're working with. It's not just basically a cut here and a cut here, so you're not using an XY axis. You're actually using an XY and Z axis. So you've got vertical, you got horizontal, and then you've got basically another vertical section. So, you know, any object out there, like if I was to show you this this lantern here, there's a 3-dimension. There's a dimension this way, there's a dimension this way, and then there's a dimension this way. And you kind of have to sit down and draw out that specific dimension in order to get the foam cut properly. And so that gets a little difficult. It takes somebody a little bit of time to play around with and make sure it gets done right. And that's what we're going to be sharing here. Now, obviously, if you have any questions or anything of that nature, feel free to comment down below. And make sure that you hit the subscribe button as well as the little bell button so that you get notified whenever we create a new video and you know, one gets notified. So if you have any questions, feel free to comment down below. We're going to be posting this on both our Facebook page as well as our own website and our YouTube videos. So again, please press the subscribe button, hit that little bell button down below, right down here I believe it is. I think there's a little bell button down here, and then there's a subscribe button down there. And if you've got any other questions, comments, you know, feel free to make it. Okay, and here we are. We're making the first cut of our second piece of foam. If you notice in the back corner there's already a piece already cut out. We made a mistake on the actual programming, so we ended up having to scrap that piece and start looking at doing it a different way. And part of the issue was it wasn't zeroed out on the Z-axis. Everything is done by an XYZ axis in a 3-dimensional format, and the Z-axis wasn't actually zeroed out properly, and that's the reason why we had a little bit of a issue with it. So it's already gone through and cut out, done 3 passes over where the radio's at, because this is about 2-inch foam or 2.5-inch foam. So it has to make one cut at like a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch, and then it has to come back around and do the cut again at pretty much the same depth all the way around. And that's what it's doing here. This is for the microphone cable. If you've seen the actual cable layout, that's where the microphone is going to lay down inside that foam area. And so you can see that the actual router itself gets lowered down. This is all done automatically by the computer. We designed the actual product on an actual piece of software on a computer screen. And then that gets translated to this CNC to do everything and all the cuts automatically. We don't have to do anything manually or touch anything. We just let it go. You can see that there's a vacuum tube there. It goes into a vacuum, basically a big, huge, large vacuum machine in the back, and all the material gets sucked up in there. Now you can imagine if you were doing wood or metal, all those metal flakes and everything would just be flying all the way around. And you can see that there's a little brush at the back end. It's just like a vacuum cleaner attachment is really what it is. Now you're going to hear us here in just a second. We're going to be talking about a little mistake that we noticed. Cut it out. Okay. So there we were explaining exactly what we're going to do later on after the program's done cutting. should be.
I think this material is just a little more 2 inches thick. We'll have to take a knife and cut through the metal.
Cut through, yeah.
When it cuts the next piece, you're really going to see it start filling up that black.
Yeah, back there.
Because these are all through cuts, so they're not as much.
Yeah. Yeah, the next one is a cut.
Yep.
Now we're transitioning to the last cut. And this one, as I was explaining, it's basically it keeps cutting. And as you can see, the CNC is moving the blade across in a specific cutting fashion to cut out large pieces of foam. And you'll see it take shape here in just a little bit. This is the pocket that my tuner is going to sit in. My tuner is a shallower depth, so it doesn't have to have a full cut through all the way down. And there you can see where the pocket is. Huh? Yep. Got something wrapped around it. Yeah. And here's an example of how to do the pocket cut here. We're just kind of going through and talking about it, this is the one that does the cut all the way through. But it doesn't go all the way through the foam. It's just cutting just a specific amount of foam out of there. It has to go through in a very specific pattern to get the little pocket. You can see the pocket just now forming. And it's going to keep on doing this little cut all the way around until it gets to the right depth. And this is where zeroing out your bit comes into play. Every now and then you'll see a little bit of the foam being sucked up in through the vacuum cleaner attachment. There goes a little bit of pieces. It's just kind of fascinating to watch how all this foam gets cut out. It doesn't leave a lot of mess behind, primarily because of the vacuum cleaner attachment. If that attachment wasn't done, there'd be pieces all over the place. this is just the one layer out of two layers for this specific case. This is for the radios. And on the left-hand side, you can see the little cutout for the radio itself, and you can definitely tell that it's for the radio because it's got the little notches on the bottom side there, cut out for all the different knobs that I've got for the 891. The rectangular in the middle is actually for the microphone cable to lay in there. The square in the upper right-hand corner is for the actual tuner itself. It's got a couple different PL24, PL259 on one side, and it's got a couple buttons on the front side to engage the auto tuner. So that one, since it's a shallow depth, it doesn't need to be cut all the way through the foam. You got to remember the foam is like 2.5 inches thick. So since the tuner itself is only like an inch, about maybe 1.25 inches, it doesn't need to have a full cut all the way through. The hole in the bottom right is for the power supply, and the notches that's at the upper left-hand corner of that is for the actual adapter, the two little prongs on the positive and negative prongs on the back side of the power supply. And it fits really nice and snugly, and we'll show you that here in just a bit. Now this is the bottom piece for the radio case, and this one is going to get very messy. This is where we are using a planer bit to plane off and shave off like almost an inch and a half or something like that of foam. And you're going to watch how much messy, how messy this gets. Just look at that mess right there. I mean, it's just foam everywhere. And the reason why we had to do this is the depth of the Apache case is not really that deep. It's like 2.5 or like 3-inch deep or something like that. And since we were using 2.5-inch foam, we actually had to go through and plane off one layer of it in order to fix it in, get it fixed into the case just right. Now notice the squares. Those are just the pockets of where my cables are going to be going. So this is actually the bottom piece of the radio case, and those squares are going to actually be cut out a little bit later on. Just look at that mess. Now it's going to come back around to the very corner and do a straight cut all the way around to kind of clean up the edges. And I believe that after this cut there's going to be one more planing cut. Now here's the top piece, as you've seen before, along with the bottom piece. You notice that there's a little pocket underneath there where I can store a couple cables. And here's the finished product. It looks really wonderful, really good. It fits snugly into the case, as well as the radio, the microphone, the tuner, and the power supply all fit just perfect into this case, and the foam. The foam cutout is going to help protect my equipment from future falls or anything if the case tumbles out of the back of my car or off the side of a pickup truck or off of my table when I'm setting up. It's going to help protect it from any dings, scratches, or even just the abrupt stop at the end of a fall. It's a great product. I like this. Now here we are making the final piece, or well, the first piece, the bottom piece for the antenna analyzer, as well as SWR and Signalink case. Now this has got a very special bottom to it. Because we're going to have to actually sand this down just a little bit so that it gets it perfect. The bottom of the Apache case is rounded. It's not perfectly square. So we're going to have to sand down the sides all the way around, all the corners, to make them nice and smooth and bucket shaped. And here we are on the final piece of the outside, the final cut on the outside that's going to match the case. And then we're going to start making another pocket piece, another pocket cut, specifically for the antenna analyzer as well as SWR meter. The Signalink is only like an inch and 3/4 or an inch and a half thick, so it doesn't need an actual cut on this bottom piece because it's going to barely even touch it. So we don't need to have a pocket on this in order for it to fit properly. Now watch, you're going to see the different pieces, and all it's doing is it's making one cut, coming up just a little bit, making another cut over, going up just slightly, making a cut, then coming back, and you can see the pieces that they almost look like little spaghetti cuts is what it is. And then after it's finished, then it's going to go around the edges and come through and slice all those pieces. Now it's coming to the end of the pocket piece for the antenna analyzer, and you can see all the little strings up in there, and we're going to reach in and we're going to remove those once the drill bit is done with this area. It's going to try to make a cut here, and some of the pieces are going to get sucked up, but not all the pieces are. And so now it's lifting up, and there's still a few pieces left over. Now we're making the pocket cut for the SWR meter. Now the SWR meter has various depths that it's going to be cut to, and the reason why is because the back piece of the SWR meter, there's one side that's like 3 inches deep or 2 inches deep or something like that, and then it kind of slopes upwards to the top part, so it doesn't necessarily need to have a diagonal cut through there. We can do it in several little small chunks, and that's what we're going to do here. Now here we are, like I said at the very beginning, that we were going to start making it a little bit of a bucket shape, that we're going to start shaping it up to be a little bit on the rounded side on the bottom piece. Here we are taking a sander to it, kind of sanding off all the, corner pieces down here. That way it fits snugly inside the case at the very, very bottom, because the Apache cases don't actually have a square bottom. This case is going to be holding my antenna analyzer, my SWR meter, as well as the Tigertronic Signalink. And this is a smaller case, so it's going to be a little bit of a different cut. We're going to have to shave off about an inch off of one piece of foam so that we can get it all nice and snug into this one specific case. And here we have the final antenna analyzer, SWR, and Signalink box with the foam insert and everything. Notice how nice and snug it fits. Everything just works out perfect. This foam project was a blast to do. I appreciate Frank for taking the time to do it. Hello everyone, it's Ryan again, and we're at the end of the video. So what did you guys think? Did you guys like what we did there? See exactly what we did? Now, obviously, not everybody's going to have the ability to source this specific type of equipment. If you know of somebody who has a CNC and knows where to get the foam and everything, you know, make sure sit down and talk with them and see if you guys can do something like this. And if you're another club that's watching this, or another group of ham radio operators, or anybody who is in the outdoors and wants to protect some specific equipment or something like that, you know, feel free to, you know, try it out and give it a try. Don't be shy. You know, it was a lot of fun. It was a very good learning curve for me. This is the first time I've ever really played with an actual CNC. I've always played with plasma cutters when I was in high school, as well as a couple other places when I was in the military and stuff of that nature. We had plasma cutters, but we didn't have a CNC that we could actually go and make cuts like this. So this was a lot of fun. Quite honestly, I might end up having to buy one myself so I could play around with it a lot more. Frank obviously bought it for several different reasons. He's been making a lot of different signs, and he's going to be making a couple other things that he's going to do on the side as side projects to make a little bit of extra money and everything. So he's been playing around with it a lot more than I have. Frank was very gracious to help me out with this project, and I definitely appreciate it. So K1 FMK, Frank, I appreciate it. Hats off to you. Thank you for the assist and you know, doing the actual project itself. If you've got any questions or anything of that nature, again, please comment down below. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and the little bell button to be notified of any of our videos. Thank you. 73. And I hope to see you guys down the road. Thank you.